Hey you! I'm glad you can make it here today, because guess what? The thing that we're looking at is truly something special. Today, we're going into the anus of left-wing thought. But, guess what? There's a specific reason that me and you, the viewer, are traveling directly into the anus of left-wing thought. Because, guess what? I, Wolf, have invented a new logical fallacy that I like to call the three arrows fallacy. What is the three arrows fallacy, you may ask? Well, the three arrows fallacy is when someone makes an argument and then somebody else says, this person is saying this, but what they really mean is this. And it's something completely different from what they actually said. The three arrows fallacy occurs when you take a statement somebody said and then make the claim with no evidence that they mean something completely different from what they actually said. And why do I call it the three arrows fallacy? Well, guess what? I named it after my favorite left-wing YouTuber that makes me want to bash my head in with a frying pan. 3 Arrows. Well, actually, no. 3 Arrows is my second favorite left-wing YouTuber that makes me want to bash my head in with a frying pan. That honor, the honor of my favorite left-wing YouTuber that would make me want to bash my head in with a frying pan, goes to Philosophy Tube. But 3 Arrows comes in second place for that honor. So, why am I accusing 3 Arrows of doing the 3 Arrows fallacy? Well, here's the thing. If you decide to torture yourself by watching 3 Arrows, you notice that 3 Arrows has a repeated pattern of reading things into statements that his political opponents make that aren't actually there. Oh, this person is saying that we should care about the existence of the white race, but what they really mean is they want to revive Nazism. Oh, this person is saying that Andrew Anglin has a right to free speech, but what they really mean is Andrew Anglin is an authority on things. You know, it works like that. And I'll give you one example of this. It's from his video titled Why the West Hates Itself, a response to Black Pigeon Speaks, where 3 Arrows did a response video to Black Pigeon Speaks, and guess what? 3 Arrows used the 3 Arrows fallacy. I'll show you the example now. Play that frickin' video!
You learn from a very young age that the ultimate incarnation of pure evil were the Nazis, and thus those that oppose Nazis are the ultimate good. From this stance of ultimate good, Western civilization derives its core values of anti-nationalism, unity being a weakness and diversity being a strength. All measure of civilizational confidence is bigotry. Any questioning with regards to the differences in people, cultures, and their compatibility is taboo.
Not only does Black Pigeon here contradict his previous statement, namely that the West has a negative foundation with opposing Nazism is the ultimate good, which a lot of Western nations did, it wouldn't even be true if we removed the West from the conversation. Because despite liberating Germany from Nazi rule, the Soviet Union isn't really seen as the ultimate good, neither in Germany nor in the rest of the Western world. Also, the notion that unity is now seen as a weakness seems kinda odd to me, because Black Pigeon himself seems to see unity as a weakness in the sense that he very much dislikes the European Union, which's motto actually is United in Diversity. There are actually a lot of claims here which are complete nonsense, like any sense of national pride being seen as bigotry or something. But I'll skip over those here because he himself doesn't bother to provide any evidence for that, except for a very flawed example of anti-fascist violence.
This is why, for example, the violence perpetrated by groups like Antifa can be morally justified, at least to themselves. Anyone who is a nationalist, anyone who wants to retain tradition, anyone who wants to limit immigration or believes in things like gender roles, is enacting in their minds the narrative of the ultimate evil. It is self-evident when you hear mobs of automatons screeching at any group or individual they disagree with Nazis off our streets, Nazis off our streets.
Gone off our streets! Nazis gone off our streets! Nazis gone off our streets!
You might not be surprised that the video footage our narrator shows here isn't a good example of what he's talking about at all. What he should have shown is Antifa screeching at people visiting a Christmas market, because apparently preserving tradition is taboo in the Western world. He didn't do that because that doesn't happen. What he shows instead is a group of demonstrators in front of a Holiday Inn in London, protesting against a gathering by the London Forum, which is a far-right think tank. Now, there isn't much to be said about this meeting in particular since the protesters were successful in their efforts to shut it down, but we can look at who usually attends the meetings organized by the London Forum. We have Richard Edmonds, who is an English neo-Nazi political activist who went to prison for racially motivated assault. There would be Alex Davies, co-founder of the banned neo-Nazi terror group National Action. This is what their symbol looks like, which is designed after the symbol of the SA, the paramilitary wing of the National Socialist Workers' Party in 30s and 40s Germany. And last but not least, you know him, he's almost a channel regular at this point, professional Holocaust denier David Irving. Talks at the London Forum in the past have been on topics such as National Socialism and the Green Movement, how to identify, counter and break Jewish Zionist domination, and was Jesus a Nazi? Now, you tell me, is David Irving arguing for the preservation of tradition when he says modern-day Auschwitz is like Disneyland? Or is Richard Edmonds espousing his belief in gender roles when he says he is, quote, 100% racist? The real reason anti-fascist violence in general is seen as more acceptable than fascist violence is because it's self-preservatory in its goal. Not because the West has been somehow indoctrinated to irrationally despise fascism like Black Pigeon seems to think, but because fascism came dangerously close to actually threatening Western civilization. It's not like Germany in the 30s was some backwards country that just turned full psycho for no reason. The Weimar Republic was actually very progressive for its time and was one of the first nations to sought decriminalizing homosexuality, something that the takeover by the National Socialists would eventually prevent from becoming reality. This taught the West, whatever that means, that fascism has to be opposed as soon as there is evidence for it trying to flourish again. And here's where we get to the actual point of his video. It's not to present what Black Pigeon calls philosophical insight, but to present a less obvious, washed down and monetizable version of the Jewish question, paired with some heavy Nazi apologetics. And this will become even more obvious moving onward from here.
So now, maybe perhaps you might be able to understand how a gay Jewish man who enjoys interracial sex, that being Milo Yiannopoulos, could ever be so ridiculously tarred with a term like Nazi. Basically, at this point, a Nazi is anyone that disagrees with any aspect of the current World War II Foundation myth. The only real value, topic, or event that is held as sacrosanct and cannot be mocked, joked about, or even questioned on pain of imprisonment in many countries in Europe is the Holocaust.
There we go. But before jumping into the slew, let's talk about that gay Jewish man who enjoys interracial sex, that being Milo Yiannopoulos. This is the side against identity politics, by the way. The example of Milo may be forgivable if this video wasn't released more than 2 months after BuzzFeed published the leaks of Milo Yiannopoulos having ties to actual neo-Nazis, which came on the heels of a video with Milo singing America the Beautiful in a bar with a bunch of neo-Nazis including Richard Spencer giving the Hitler salute. Among numerous indications that Milo was actually not just a troll, it also included a password Milo had shared with his assistant, which was Long Knives 1290. The Night of the Long Knives being the Nazi purge of the leadership of the SA, and 1290 being the year King Edward I expelled the Jews from England. Now, given the people in this video who Black Pigeon says have been unjustly called neo-Nazis, I'm wondering who in his mind might actually qualify for that label. It's almost like he wants to further and further narrow the group of people where this label is acceptable to remove it from the conversation altogether. But if you think these were bad examples, wait what our narrator comes up with next.
Throughout the Western world in its entirety, to question even the details of the Holocaust is to have yourself shunned by society and made a social pariah. Just ask Andrew Anglin over at the now defunct Daily Stormer.
You know, usually a dog whistle is supposed to be subtle so that you can always deny that it is one. What Black Pigeon does in this video is closer to this. Just ask Andrew Anglin as proof that people are too sensitive about the Holocaust. A literal neo-Nazi who runs a page named after the Nazi propaganda paper Der Stürmer, and who is also an open Holocaust denier. I don't even have to point to all the stuff he said on his website because he actually admitted to denying the Holocaust in court. Because this is what Black Pigeon actually means by questioning. Earlier this year, Andrew Anglin was on trial for instigating a harassment campaign against a Jewish real estate agent from Montana. Part of this campaign was Anglin photoshopping a picture of her and her son depicting them as inmates of a death camp. When this was brought up in Anglin's court case, his defense for this was that it's actually not a threat and that the court should view it through his mindset in which the Holocaust never happened, and therefore this picture is no more a threat than, quote, sending Death Star blowing up Vulcan imagery to a Star Trek fan. This, according to Black Pigeon, is the authority you should talk to find out that even asking questions about the Holocaust is off limits. Which it's not, by the way. I touched on this in a previous video of mine, but to ask questions about the details of the Holocaust is nowhere near unacceptable. You know who you could actually ask to find out if questioning the Holocaust is off limits? A Holocaust scholar who do nothing but questioning the details of the Holocaust to get a better understanding of it. They are not made social pariahs because when Black Pigeon says questioning the Holocaust, he really means muddying the waters in an effort to rehabilitate the Nazis. That's the actual goal of this ideological exercise by Anglin and the likes. The next part of this video isn't really that interesting. He talks about how people in Asia sometimes wear SS outfits because they like the fashion and not because they just want to be edgy, and also basically repeats what he said in the beginning. But if you're interested in seeing that part, the link is in the description.
Notice what Three Arrows said at specifically the end. The real purpose of this video, according to Three Arrows, is to rehabilitate the Nazis. Is to, quote, muddy the waters in order to rehabilitate the Nazis. Look, whatever your views on Nazism are, this is one of the main issues that I have with Three Arrows and left-wing people in general. They read things into statements that you make and are like, well, this person is saying this, but what they really mean is this. The real reason why they're saying X is Y. But, you know, there's simply no evidence for it. In the context of this video, Black Pigeon Speaks was not saying that Andrew Anglin is an authority on the Holocaust. What he was saying was that if you question the Holocaust, you will get persecuted, and Andrew Anglin has been persecuted. Black Pigeon Speaks is defending Andrew Anglin's right to free speech, not what Andrew Anglin says about the Holocaust. There's a difference. Black Pigeon Speaks is simply pointing out that anyone who says anything about the Holocaust that goes against the mainstream narrative is persecuted by society. That's what he's saying. There is no ulterior motive here, as Three Arrows seems to believe, and this is the Three Arrows fallacy in action. Oh, Black Pigeon. Oh, the real purpose of this video is not to talk about the foundation myths of societies, or even how people are being persecuted for questioning the Holocaust. The real purpose of this video, according to Three Arrows, is to muddy the waters, quote-unquote muddy the waters. You know, it's a logical fallacy. I don't even... And it's kind of amazing that people that create logical fallacies didn't come up with this, but there you go. This is the Three Arrows fallacy. The Three Arrows fallacy is taking what somebody says and says, oh, but what they're really saying is X. But they're actually, even though they're actually saying Y. Now, I'm not going to respond to everything that the clip, to the arguments that Three Arrows makes in this video that aren't related to what the Three Arrows fallacy, because that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to expose a bad tactic that left-wingers use. A logical fallacy that left-wingers make all the time. Okay. Now, I apologize for playing too long of a clip, but I wanted to get all the context in, because if I just showed the clip where Three Arrows actually commits the Three Arrows fallacy, I don't want to be accused of not giving you the full context, so I gave you the full context of the video, and then showed you the Three Arrows fallacy. I'm not going to respond to the actual arguments themselves, because again, that wasn't the point of this video. I'm not going to argue whether or not Black Pigeon Speaks is correct in the central thesis of the video that Three Arrows was responding to. I'm just trying to expose a certain logical fallacy that I see Three Arrows and other people on the left commit. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video or agreed with anything that I said, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. This is Wolf signing out.